I'm national correspondent Kayla Gaskins here in Washington, D.C. We have Secretary Scott Turner with HUD joining us today. So, Secretary, I want to start with President Trump's address Wednesday evening, where he focused on affordability, an issue many Americans are paying close attention to. The president said in the new year he will announce some aggressive housing reform plans, some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. Can you give us any insight into what those reforms might look like?
Well, good morning to you, Kayla. It's great to be with you. You know, I thought the president's speech was spot on, really telling the American people the real truth about what's happened over the last 11 months in making America affordable again. And as you know, the president is tireless. He doesn't rest in promoting policies and legislation to make America not only great again, but the strongest it's ever been. There's a myriad, if you will, of ideas that are flowing around. We have discussed many housing reform policies, ideas that are on the table. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. He will make a strong announcement, as he said. But I want the American people to know that we're very intentional across the administration here at HUD about housing reforms, making housing affordable, making housing, the supply go up and the costs come down for every American in our country. So great news to come.
In Wednesday's speech, the president also pointed to the crisis at the southern border, millions of migrants that came into the country illegally, especially over the last administration, and the impact that that had on driving up housing costs. HUD just put out its own report backing up this argument about how big of an impact immigration has had on the housing supply side of this issue. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the report that came out of HUD and what it had to say about immigration regarding housing?
Absolutely. So during the Biden administration, you know, there were very weak immigration policies with open borders. Over 12 million illegal aliens came over our border unchecked. No transparency, no accountability, driving up the housing affordability, driving down the supply for American people. We're here to support American citizens. And with our report, you see that the foreign-born population from 2021 to 2024 increased by 6 million. In that period of time in our nation's history, that is the most ever that we have recorded. And if you look at President Trump and look at the border over the last 6 months, zero illegals were crossed over into our country. Rent prices have gone down month by month over the last 4 months. 2 million illegals have left our country. So it's no coincidence that as we check illegal immigration, that rent prices come down. During the time in the Biden administration, illegal aliens accounted for nearly all of the rental growth in our country. And so when President Trump came in under his leadership, Secretary Noem, Mr. Holman, and others, securing our border, checking our border, making sure that no illegal aliens were able to come in, prioritizing American citizens only, prices come down, supply goes up, rental prices have come down, and so it's no coincidence that under his leadership that we're in a better spot.
There are plenty of critics who disagree with this assessment, and I want to allow you to respond to some of their criticism. Harvard released a study saying the timing of the recent surge in immigration does not line up with the high growth both in rents and home prices that we started to see during the pandemic. And then Jenna Stauffer, she's a global real estate advisor at Sotheby's. She says immigration, in her opinion, is not the primary driver of what she calls the housing mess we're in. She says housing affordability has been unraveling for years, and the problem we're dealing with goes way beyond just one factor, saying a major factor in her view is the building, the supply side of things that we've seen for almost 2 decades. So what is your response to some of these critics saying immigration is not as big of a factor as you say it is?
Well, I disagree. I think the data shows that immigration is a huge factor in driving up cost and decreasing supply. We have American citizens that are not able to receive rental housing and housing in our country because of the millions of illegal aliens that have come across our borders. I have a real interesting stat for you. 59% of illegal alien families use one or more of the welfare programs in our country, costing us about $42 billion. And if you think about almost 60% of illegal alien families use one or more welfare programs in our country, costing us about $42 billion, and housing is included in that. At HUD, for instance, we take care of about 4 million families per year at HUD, putting a roof over their head. We've taken drastic measures and reforms to make sure that we're serving only American people. For instance, at DHS, we signed a data sharing agreement to make sure that only American citizens are living inside of HUD-funded housing. We eliminated FHA-backed mortgages to illegal aliens so that those mortgages go to American citizens and American citizens only. We put out a mandate to all public housing authorities across our country that they give us a comprehensive account of every person living inside of Section 8 or HUD-funded housing to make sure that they are American citizens. Why do I say this? Because those reforms are not needed if there wasn't such a surge and a big problem with illegal immigration in our country. The data shows the answers. The data is the proof, and so I come against strongly any critic that says that illegal immigration is not the problem, because it is definitely a big part of the issue.
So for decades, the nation's major rental assistance programs have helped so-called mixed households where maybe one member isn't eligible for assistance because of their immigration status. HUD is looking to, or there's been reports that HUD is looking to potentially change that policy and make sure everybody in a household that's receiving government assistance is here legally and is an American citizen. Can you talk to those potential changes at all?
Yeah, you're talking about the mixed status rule.
Yes, mixed status.
And I think I've alluded to it before. Our priority is American citizens, and that's our only priority. That's the law. And my job as a steward of HUD and our team is to make sure that we uphold the laws on the books. And the law is to support American citizens. And so, yes, those reforms are in the works. We've been taking inventory, Kaylee, of every program at HUD to ensure that the programs that we steward over are helping us to meet our most basic mission and taking care of the most vulnerable people in our country. And so the mixed status rule, amongst others, are not just under the microscope and under the radar, but we're taking inventory of every program to make sure we're upholding the law the way we've been called to uphold it and carrying out the mission the way we've been called to carry it out.
What is HUD doing to help with the supply side of the housing crisis as far as building more housing to help bring down rental prices?
Well, the number one thing is taking down burdensome regulations. When we first came to HUD, one of our first actions was to take down the affirmatively further and fair housing rule, which really made HUD a national zoning board. And so we took this burdensome rule down because it was crippling building and development in our neighborhoods across America. Every locality in our country, every urban, tribal, and rural community, every urban, tribal, and rural locality, they understand their unique needs better than any bureaucrats in Washington. So we took down this affirmatively further and fair housing rule to unleash the ingenuity and unleash the innovativeness and really the local control back to our communities so that they could build all types of housing across our country.
HUD announced last week an investigation into Boston's DEI practices, alleging they violate federal anti-discrimination laws. Can you tell us a bit about what spurred this probe?
Yeah, so in Boston, what we found, and we launched this investigation, is because they were using discriminatory housing policies in their city. We found a quote on their website that said they will integrate racial equity at every level of city government. So they put race above reality. They put race above merit and need. And our job at HUD is to enforce and uphold the Fair Housing Act. And they were evading and encouraging landlords and property owners to evade the Fair Housing Act. And so, yes, they have been put on notice. We will uphold and enforce this law. It's not about race. It's not about gender. DEI at HUD is there. We counseled over $4 billion in contracts in DEI, and so we will not promote nor will we tolerate this as it pertains to housing policies. And so that's why this investigation was launched.
All right, two more quick questions if you've got just another minute. So the Massachusetts governor says your investigation is ridiculous and frivolous and just another example of Trump going after his political enemies. What's your response to that?
It's not true. Our job is to uphold the law. It has nothing to do with politics, but everything to do with principle. We put principle over politics. Our job is to enforce the law, and they are evading the law and encouraging others to evade the law. For example, to preference or give privilege to people who are looking to buy a home and give them privilege because of their race, that has nothing to do with the law. To insert racial equity at every level of city government, that has nothing to do with the law. To encourage financial institutions to lend to people and give preference to people according to their race, that has nothing to do with the law or politics. And so DEI, discriminatory policies, all of those things are dead, not just here at HUD, but in the administration. And the American people deserve for the laws to be upheld and not to promote discriminatory housing policies because of their race, their gender, their ideology. And so that's our job here, is to make sure the law is being upheld.
Last question. Secretary, what is one metric that Americans can use to judge whether or not HUD is succeeding under your leadership?
Well, thank you, Kayla, for asking. And I think one of the most important metrics that we can use is this year, since January, HUD has helped people when it pertains to housing affordability. We've helped over 1 million first-time home buyers just since January to achieve the American dream. And so I think that's a great metric that you can use, along with taking down burdensome regulations to unleash innovativeness and housing supply across the country, to uphold the law here at HUD and to take down almost $4 billion in DEI contracts, taking inventory of every program at HUD to ensure that we're carrying out our mission, serving the most vulnerable people in our country, making public housing safe housing, announcing our new crime hotline to make sure that people that live inside of public housing authorities can report nefarious activity, drug use, drug selling, sex trafficking, illegal aliens, to make sure that people feel safe inside of public housing. And so I think these, along with many others, can let the American people know we're very focused in carrying out the mission here at HUD.
Secretary Turner, thank you so much for your time today.
Okay. Thank you.